Hey, what's happening, you guys? Welcome back to Let's Go Win podcast. We are here for Tuesday Tune-Up, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. I'm really excited today because we are talking about a subject I am completely enamored with. I think we need to talk about it more, and that is really having a resilient mindset. And the young lady I'm going to bring on certainly has that. She has an amazing story, and I was very, very honored to be on her show, and I'm so blessed to have her as a guest today. April Chavez is a mother of three, former police officer, a lupus survivor, and talk show host. Inspired by her mother's nursing career, she served her community in law enforcement before transitioning to the broadcasting arena. She created the Wellness Driven Life Show, combining her passion for service and her professional experience to help people achieve total wellness. April is a force in her field, known for her intelligence, humor, and ability to connect with diverse individuals. And I can absolutely vouch for that. You connect extremely well. How are you doing?
I am fabulous, JM. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you so much for having me on your incredible platform. I love when I can share the stage with people who are really showing up and saying all of the great things and have the topics that really align with me and my values. And you definitely are that person. And that is why you were invited on our platform as well. So truly an honor and excited to be here today.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun. And let's be here. We're just going to throw it out here. She says she feels great, but she's feeling sick. She's dealing with a cold. And this is a perfect segue. This is exactly what we're talking about. Having that resilience mindset where it's like, it's no longer about how you're feeling. You're like, look, we're here to do a show. I'm ready to go. And I said, you look great. You sound great. But I know inside you're like, I don't feel that good, even though you're showing up in an incredible way.
Oh, that is so sweet, Jam. Well, it's interesting, right? Because my show is so much about, and yours too, is about being our authentic selves. And mine really stems around well-being, overall wellness, and how we take care of ourselves. And so it's an interesting topic when we become ill because maybe we're doing too much or what have you, right? So for me to be here today, it's like, well, what is the right thing to say? Is it that you really should take some time off and do some self-care? Or do you also, are there times where you should push through? Now, my mother is an incredible example of just always showing up. So like I don't recall her being sick often. It was very rare, and she works in the healthcare field, so she's really showing up for others, taking care of everyone else. And so that was my example growing up. And then of course being in the law enforcement field, I didn't have the opportunity to show up other than being my best because the environment could be extreme, right? So I wasn't it wouldn't be serving anybody, myself or anyone around me, if I showed up, whining or complaining or calling in sick all the time, because you have to be held to a higher standard. And so I was reflecting on that today a little bit. I thought to myself, should I cancel some appointments? Should I do this? But I don't want to, because I love doing what I do. And yes, my voice does sound a little different. So we can definitely put that out there. There's a lot of talking involved as we do these and conduct these incredible interviews. And the value that is going out into the world, it far surpasses my desire to want to lay down.
Well, and we're blessed with having you today because I would not have wanted you to cancel. Of course, if it was so bad, I would say, of course, no problem. We'd reschedule. But
Happens.
this gets right to the heart of the matter, which is the resilient mindset. I mean,
Yeah.
again, maybe it was just meant to be. That's what we're going to talk about, and we're going to deal with some, because the truth is, we all have stuff going on. Shit is happening in our life, and it's not always positive.
Yeah.
And yet, how are we showing up? Are we bringing our baggage and drama to the table and saying, woe is me, let me tell you how bad my life is? Or do we check that ego at the door and show up in service? And that's clearly something that you've done, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? I know it looks good on the outside. It does. But the truth is, that's not life. We have stuff going on. How are you able to put some of this to the side to show up in your authentic way, yet there's stuff to deal with after you're done with the show or whatever? How do you do that?
Oh, I put a really good mask on, JM. No. Well, yes and no, right? We all wear different masks for different things. We can change our feelings in an instant. The way that we feel, the way we perceive things. I mean, this is a really strange example, but I liken it to this because it's one of the easiest examples that I could say as a human that everybody can relate to. And if you think of a sexual thought and how fast that can switch the chemical responses, right? If you consider that, then you know how fast we're able to change our state of being. And so, because I know that if I just show up in this way, or the 2%, and I shift the way that I show up and I just stand a little taller and I continue to proceed. And I know that that's how I want to show up because I'd rather be that person than not. And so also change is constant. So it's easy, especially me coming from I have an autoimmune disease, systemic lupus, and I've had it my entire life. I was diagnosed at 15, symptoms since birth, and it has always showed up where it's this ebb and flow. And sometimes I'm doing incredible and sometimes I'm not. And I feel like I can't, do anything or move any further, or I'm going to not survive to make it to see the daylight of the next morning. And what I do know out of that experience is change is the only constant, and it certainly will change. It's not going to remain that way forever.
Yeah, the sexual example is actually a good one because you're right. It does flip on and it gives us
Yeah.
a good frame of reference to say, well, okay, if I allowed this thought or this thought happened and now I can choose so quickly, it really does come down to a choice. And
Yes.
people don't like to hear this because look, you can choose to be a victim and you can choose to really not show up as the best version of you, or
Mhm.
you can choose to say, "Yep, I'm dealing with
Yeah.
this." Whether it's something as like lupus, which I don't know much about, honestly, but I can't imagine it's easy. I'm sure there's any autoimmune disease that presents some real challenges to show up as the best version of you, but you do. So I guess maybe my question would be for those listening, they're like, well, it's not that easy, JM. You can't just switch it on and off. But I watch people do it. I watch people that are happy, that are truly
Yeah.
bringing change and positivity to the world. They are having real life problems too. So, do you have any practical tips that you could be like, you know what? Here's some things that I've done that have allowed me to overcome whatever adversity I'm facing in the moment?
Yeah, 100%. And I would like to be clear that this is a constant practice for me.
Mhm.
And it's one of the most challenging because I am a very emotional human being. I definitely am, and maybe would be called empathetic or an empath or whatever they say. But I'm really an emotional person, and so it has taken me a great deal of practice and continued practice to be able to hone in on those feelings that I'm experiencing in the moment. It's and some of the greatest life lessons for me has been to don't take things personally. And I wouldn't be able to show up going live and interviewing others and going out into the social media world if I was concerned about what everybody thought, because that is only going to set me back. So there's a couple of different things where you can shift and put into your awareness. Is well, first off, that's a really good one, because if you want to do greater things in the world, or you know that you want to show up to be something greater, then start showing up as that, and know that if you don't, it's only going to hold you back, and it's going to take a lot longer to be able to meet that point in life, right? They say that you should start hanging around, or the 5 people that you hang around are really the sum of what creates you as a human being. And I like to say that you can get that through books. It doesn't have to be people in your physical immediate realm. And who inspires you, and then when you consider who inspires you, what do they show up like? And when you think about that in the moment that you're experiencing, and it takes training, because we're automatically not going to be thinking that way. So you can have little things that remind you, if you just say, and coach your subconscious mind to, when I see a pen, it's going to remind me of this, or what have you, to start thinking differently, or start showing up as this person that really inspires you. And so it's really just redirecting your thoughts and having little reminders around that that's who I want to be. I don't want to remain in this moment. I have a good example. It was really literally just probably 3 days ago. I was very upset. There's a circumstance in life that I was frustrated over, and I was starting to get into that low point and feeling like this is always going to be this way. It's never going to change. And my partner is a really good source. We're great for each other because we bounce off ideas with one another. We support one another. And when we get to that point, we try to bring each other back, and we're like, hey, let's think of it this way. And so it was very, very helpful, because he said, think about it this way, and it's not going to last forever. When I say it's not going to last forever, I say that with, really, it has been one of the greatest lessons for me, one of the greatest understandings, I should say, rather, because there has been those points where I've been in bed and I couldn't move and I couldn't get up. And you feel like your lowest points. And then the next day, I'm able to get up and I'm able to move. The disease has really given me this drastic ebb and flow, yin yang, what have you, to experience the world in such a way, in those drastic differences. And because of that, I know that there is that change. And so when you think of whatever circumstance it is in your life that's holding you back, that you feel really doom and gloom over, just imagine that it's not going to be like that tomorrow, and unless you allow it.
I love it. And as you're talking, this too shall pass
Yeah.
immediately. And that means both good and bad, by the way. When you're
Yes.
in your greatest moment, this too shall pass. When you're in your worst moment, this too shall pass. But I want to hit on this idea that you said, the 5 closest people that we surround ourselves is really a direct reflection of who we are. And whether it's 5 or it's 10, it really doesn't matter to me. Your influences that we surround ourselves with, whether it be books or human beings, is so vitally important. So, for instance, you were talking about your partner, who I did get a chance to meet. Wonderful man. I don't know him well, but in the brief time, you surrounded yourself with a good one.
Yeah.
And why I say this and why this is so important is, what are we surrounding ourselves with? And if you are constantly being surrounded by toxicity, how can you possibly show up as the best version of you? And the
Right.
best example I can give is my morning routine. My wife knows, for the till 9 a.m., there's nothing but amazing in our life. I don't deal with negativity until 9 a.m. After that, you can throw anything at me. It doesn't matter. But I
Yeah.
want that window so I can work on me, so I can work on my mind, my body, my soul, really getting prepared so I can face some of these adversities.
Yep.
Um, was it always that way? Did you always surround yourself with amazing human beings, or have you had times where you had to make these choices that, you know what, these best friends, significant others, whomever, this isn't a great example? Because I definitely have gone through that. And
Oh,
I know
yeah.
a lot of people listening right now are probably looking around saying, I don't like who I'm surrounded with, but it's comfortable. It's what I know.
Oh my goodness, the comfortable, it's what I know. People stay, all of us have a tendency to stay in those positions, relationships. I experienced that so much when I was in law enforcement, because many of our calls were domestic violence. And you go into that field of service because you want to help. And so when you go and you're giving them all of the resources, and you're removing them from the threat and the immediate issue right away, right? So you're putting them in the safety zone, and then you give them a ton of resources, and they choose not to. They're always going back, and you're going back to that cycle of violence because it's comfortable. Now, have I experienced that where I have been surrounded by people that weren't healthy for me? Oh, yes, of course. Probably most of my life. So it is something that we're not taught that, or to really reflect on the energies that we're surrounding ourselves with, and that it's okay to change. And until we start changing those energies in the environment and everything around us, then we're not going to really see the change within ourselves. I think a really cool thing about when we talk about our significant others is, are they do you want to be a better human being when you're with them? Do they make you want to be better and show up differently? And when you talked about Manly, it makes me want to. I get emotional because he truly has been this great inspiration for me. And uh, I actually chased him for a while, believe it or not. Not a lot of people know that, but it wasn't him chasing me. It was me chasing him because I realized and I knew that because he worked on himself so much, and because he was showing up in the world the way that I wanted to be, it in turn made me want to be better and do better and learn and grow. And so I did. And then I was just hooked. I knew that that was somebody I wanted to surround myself with for the rest of my life. And so that's a good example and a good way of thinking of it is, do I want to be a better version of myself when I'm around this person?
Yeah. And I know that you two are a team when it comes to the wellness driven life show, because I know you're in front of the camera, but he's doing so much behind the scenes to make this thing go. And I guess I point that out to say, this is such a good example. And I love teams. It's my favorite thing that I get to do is when I get to work with teams and a partnership, a marriage, you're teammates, right? And at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do. When you two decided, hey, we're going all in on the wellness driven life show. And not only are we going all in, guys, 5 days a week, April is doing this show. And I'm not talking like the 25-minute show like what I'm doing right now. I mean, it's a solid 45 minutes to an hour. My question or thought is, why? What was the driving force for you to say, I need to do this show? This is my calling. And what has
Yeah.
been one of the biggest learning lessons you've had from it so far?
Oh, fire hose to the face, couldn't count the learning lessons, literally. But I think that when I first presented this idea to Manley, he kind of looked at me sideways and shook his head and was kind of like, "Really? What are you doing? What makes you think that this is a great thing?" But he's so supportive that, but I know, as we continue to move onward, he does tell other people, he was like, he wasn't sure about it because it is a huge endeavor that we have done. But the magic of it is when we said we were going to do this, and we needed to do this, and we needed to have the music for the intro and the outro and all the anxiety that it stems around it. How are we going to get guests? And are we going to be able to keep the momentum up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And things just started to happen. These synchronicities came into play, and nothing has truly worked out this well in life for us except for this show. And yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's hard. We get people all the time saying, "How do you do it?" Because we don't have a team. Our team, I should not say that. Our team consists of two and a half. It is me, him, and our cat. And our cat is not very helpful because she doesn't have thumbs. However, she is there for us when we need some companionship, right? And so it has been this journey. And I also would have to say, yes, it's a full-time position. So the concentration for me is the show. And Manley, he too has a full-time position. The lights have to stay on somehow, right? And so, and his job is very, very demanding. He covers a third of the US. So it is not this small endeavor, but because there's so much passion, because we get to engage with people who are changing the world and they are so passionate about what they're doing, it energizes us to keep moving forward. And it just, I think that's where the key lies, right? People are able to do these incredible miraculous things because they have this spark within them, this the fire that's burning in their bellies, that they know that it brings so much value to themselves and to the world that you don't want to stop. You know, it's a good thing going.
Well, and one of the things about putting it out to the world, the wellness driven life show, that you're literally saying, okay, world, I'm going to show up in my best way all the time. And what I mean by that, that doesn't mean I'm not going to have hiccups. Of course you are. But my goal is to have complete wellness, to have wholeness, to show up physically, mentally, spiritually, all of it in the best way possible. And I say that to say same thing with Let's Go Win. The whole purpose of doing this
Mm.
is it's advertising to the world, to the universe, to everyone. This is what I stand for. This is who I am. And I'm giving you permission, audience, to hold me accountable to show up as the best version of me. It can be a lot of pressure, but at the same time, you've really set yourself up to say, look, I'm asking everyone to keep me at my best. I'm surrounding myself with these human beings that are making the world better. Did all of that go in as part of like the strategy, or is just like, look, man, this is my calling, this is my purpose. I have to do this.
Mm. Well, I hit a really, really low point when we relocated from Colorado to Texas. And it was a difficult transition because, well, for a lot of different reasons. So I was at a really low point, and I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to show up in the world. I've worn a number of hats, like said, been in law enforcement, delved a little bit in corporate and management and leadership and all of these things. When I stepped into entrepreneurship, I wanted to go into wellness because it really has been at the forefront of my life with, you know, with autoimmune disease and needing to learn how to heal myself or show up to be my best self for my kids, etc. So it's really always been at the forefront. And coaching was a bad taste in my mouth. For whatever reason, I had it in my mind that I don't really want to coach. And so, what other possibilities are there? And I had a friend of mine who knew the situation. She knew I was pretty low and down, and she said, "Hey, what would it be like? Would you be open to the possibility of creating and learning how to do your own talk show?" And the idea was really appealing to me because I I thought to myself, if I can share and put out the information, which sounds way better to me than coaching somebody, and maybe that's in the future, but being able to just share this incredible information and to interview other people who are doing incredible things across the world, and they're from different cultural backgrounds and different experiences so that they can relate to a broad audience, that appealed to me. And that sparked a lot of energy within me. And not only that, but because the people, when we asked them what their thoughts were about certain things for the show and like how to do it, because we started from scratch, we didn't really know anything. I had some guidance from that wonderful human being, Kim Jacobs, who helped me along in the very beginning, but then the rest was, you have to learn it yourself. And so it was all self-taught. And the people who we do know in our lives, we asked them, "Hey, what do you think of this? Or could you help us with that?" And they were so willing to help, and without really knowing what it was going to come out of, or that we couldn't pay them at that time. It, it's just really cool how it all turned out.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you put it out there, the universe will provide. It's just the way it works. People
Yeah.
can say that's woo woo if they want. I don't care. That's energy that you put out there. It will
Yeah.
be reciprocated. I want to just give you an open forum moment as we get to the end here where I didn't know enough to ask you X, whatever the X was that you want to make sure to share with the audience before we wrap up, right, April, because you have so many layers to you. You're such a dynamic woman. I'm sure I missed out on some questions. So, what do you want to make sure to leave the audience before we kind of end up?
Oh, well, JM, my biggest message to people is that you're more powerful than you can imagine. And that's really what I strive for. When I say I have a lot of different guests on the show, it's because I want great stories to go out there. And then the stories of healing yourself and uh, just being as powerful as we are, and all the science that's now out there to back it. That's really my big audacious message to the world that I truly love, because I've seen miracles happen. I've seen it within myself, I've seen it within other people. And I think it's just an incredible thing.
That's so good. If the audience wanted to make sure to find your show, which you should, by the way, connect with you online, where's the best place, April, for them to just really get more of you in their life? Because again, I'm blessed to have you in my life. I'm so honored that you came on the show, and I want my audience to be able to do the same.
Thank you. Well, our handle is the Wellness Driven Life Show. And so you can find us on most platforms, whether it be the podcast arena or the website or any of the social media avenues. The Wellness Driven Life Show is our handle. And yeah, driven living is also that's our the father company, so to speak, Driven Living LLC. So a lot of that is going to be coming to the forefront, but of course the websites will be merged. So either drivenliving.com or the wellnessdrivenlifeshow.com will all lead you. But a lot of that's going to be happening in December as we come to bring more community to fruition for people to have access to different things. But the show itself gives a lot of access to numerous guests, just like you, JM, on this platform. It's a beautiful thing to be able to expand your knowledge and your wisdom and everybody else's to the world. And so, yeah, you can find me there. I am on LinkedIn a lot. That is oftentimes where I find many of my guests. And so I concentrate a lot on it. But you can also reach me through the website as well.
Well, again, you not feeling well, you couldn't tell. You absolutely crushed it.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for coming on and just bringing your wisdom and talking about the resilient mindset. I mean, it's so important and yet it seems to come so easy to you. I think there's a ton of lessons to be learned here. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
You guys, please go check out the Wellness Driven Life Show. I promise you, it's awesome. I was very fortunate to be a guest. Go check it out and take this lesson to heart. Having a resilient mindset, whether you think you can or can't, you're right. It's one of my favorite quotes Henry Ford said, and it's so true. If you think you can do anything, you absolutely can. By the way, if you think you can't, you're right too. Make sure to share this with someone. Everyone needs to develop their mindset to be a bit more resilient, including myself. This was such a great reminder. And until next time, make sure to take care of one another. Have an amazing, happy Thanksgiving. I appreciate you all. We'll talk very soon.